Well, good morning. I want to talk to you a little bit this morning. We're studying the book of Genesis, and we just completed chapter 4. Now, chapter 4 is entitled Cain and Abel, and I thought I'd talk to you a little bit about Cain and Abel. When we read in the King James Bible in particular about Cain and Abel, we read that Cain slew Abel, and then you go on to the next verse or two and kind of skim over it. We know that Cain killed Abel, but there's more to it than that. So I thought I'd kind of share with you this morning the story of Cain and Abel. Now, do you recall when Adam and Eve were kicked out of the Garden of Eden for eating the forbidden fruit? And so they moved on, resettled, started a home. And Adam was a farmer, he was a gardener. And so this is the second garden. And it's the second garden, at least in my mind, because Adam was a gardener. Now back then people lived a long time. I've read that Adam lived for 777 years. Adam and Eve were responsible for populating the earth. And so they had a lot of children. Eve bore 63 children, 32 daughters and 31 sons. Cain was born, and Cain, like his father, became a gardener. I'm going to say a good gardener because he learned from his father. And 2 years later, Abel was born. And Abel grew up and became a herdsman. Now, when you say herdsman, you think of a shepherd. And that's accurate, but there was more than sheep. There was cattle, there was goats. I assume there was herds of horses and this and that. But Abel was the herdsman. And things went along, and one day they had to go see God and bring a sacrifice. Now in the scripture, this sacrifice, you don't read of an altar. So Abel brought the best of his flock, the fat. I'm going to say the fat of the lamb. It was a blood sacrifice. Cain brought vegetables, which was okay because he was a gardener. And so God received this, and he was very pleased with Abel's blood sacrifice because it was the best he had. Cain, on the other hand, had his sacrifice rejected. Now I've read several things about that, several different opinions from knowledgeable people, more knowledgeable than I. And one of the opinions is it was Cain's attitude that caused his rejection. Another opinion is, and it's the one that I go with, that I believe is probably most likely, was that he didn't bring the best that he had, and God knew that. So God rejected it, and he told him so. And when he told him so, Cain became enraged and full of hate. And when he became enraged, the beast, Satan, came in and just consumed him. And so Cain was full of hate. He was full of hate towards God. He was full of hate towards his brother Abel. So he arranged a meeting with Abel. And during this meeting, I assume that there was an argument. And Cain, being a gardener, most likely had garden tool with him and probably just bashed Abel's head in and must have hit his body. So God comes along and he said, where's your brother? Abel said, I don't know. I know not. Am I my brother's keeper? And God said, what have you done? He said, your brother's blood cries to me from the earth. And because you've done that, never again will the earth yield herself to you to grow things that you plant. Nothing you plant will grow in the earth. And you're going to wander for the rest of your life in the wilderness. The desert, actually, is what it was. Excuse me. Cain said, I can't do that. I can't do that. People will kill me. He said, I'll be killed. God said, no. No. He said, if any person or persons that harm you or kill you, want to kill you, I will bring it back on them sevenfold. And in his mercy, and God showed mercy here, he put his mark on Cain. I'm going to assume that he put it on his forehead for all to see. So Cain left, and he wandered the wilderness. He went to the land of Nod, and now Nod means wanderer or to take flight. And he eventually married and started a home there in the land of Nod. Now, Adam's third son was named Seth, S-E-T-H. And Seth took on the burden and the honor of being the herdsman, of taking care of flocks and herds of cattle and, I assume, horses or whatever they had. And he had a son. Now, Seth had a son, and his son was named Enos, E-N-O-S. I've seen it spelled E-N-O-S-H. But his son was named Enos. And Enosh was the first pastoral person ever. He publicly spoke of God. He publicly prayed. He began men talking about God and paying respect to God publicly. So that was your first pastor. Seth's child. Seth's son. Seth, as we said, was the third child of Adam, third son. Now back then, as we said, people lived a long time, and it was Adam and Eve's job to populate the earth. And so if you were going to marry back then, you married one of your relatives, one of your blood relatives, your brother or sister or your cousin. And in 4 generations, and I found this really interesting, in 4 generations of Adam and Eve's children, there was 1,647 direct descendants from Adam and Eve. So that's pretty much the story of Cain and Abel. I wanted to share that with you because we do pass over it. And there's so much more in the Bible than just reading the words. It's difficult to read between the lines, and so you have to dig in and find out what went on. And it's a tremendously fascinating history. So that's it for today. God bless you. Subscribe if you like these, and let us know what you think. Remember, life is sweet, bumps and all.